you said that humans may or may not have had a large influence, or you said that humans have had some sort of influence on climate change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
there's no doubt about that we're utilizing things that otherwise would not have been utilized. We're releasing hydrocarbons into the atmosphere, and burning fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide, all that kind of stuff at a greater rate than it otherwise would have happened if we weren't here.
Right.
But does that mean that we're solely responsible for climate change? No, the climate has been changing continuously since the beginning of the planet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We always go through these cycles of high carbon, low carbon cycles, and it's been going on since basically the beginning of time in terms of what we know as planet Earth. So it's normal that these, we have these fluctuations in carbon, and it's essentially what sort of lead to these ice ages and then hot times and back to ice ages, and the Earth sort of, recycles itself in a way, because nothing is static. It can't be. Biology isn't static, so the Earth isn't static, and that's just sort of
the universe isn't even static.
Yeah, the universe isn't static. So I mean, we're literally traveling through the universe as we're speaking on this pod
at a ridiculous speed, ridiculous speed.
Yeah, exactly.
And we think we're sitting still. No, nothing is ever still.
So part of my research was asking ChatGPT some questions, but we have to remember to take things that ChatGPT is currently saying with a grain of salt, because it has been changing recently. It's been leaning left, I would argue. So some of the answers, some of the times, just need to be wary of some of the information. And remember, it's a AI model that is being trained on data sets that we're feeding it. So it can get some things wrong. But so with that being said, just understand that as I'm reading this answer, because the answer is...
What? Oh,
go ahead.
Well, so I was just going to say, with the ChatGPT, like you mentioned, it's more left leaning at the moment. I tend to agree with you, but I think the way to summarize it would be it's being retarded by political correctness, right? And you can actually see the retardation happening from the political correctness, and it really inhibits its ability to be a fun and useful tool. That's what I found personally. I think that's what you're alluding to as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So here is my idiotic question. If humans stop pollution today, could we stop the progression of climate change? Is what I want to know. Right? So if we all stopped driving cars, we stopped producing energy, everything just got shut down, like lights out, would we actually be able to halt climate change? So while it is difficult to completely halt the progression of climate change by simply stopping pollution today, taking immediate and significant action to reduce pollution would certainly be a crucial step in mitigating its impacts and working towards a more sustainable future. Climate change is a complex issue caused by a variety of factors, including greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, industrial activities, and more. Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide accumulate in the atmosphere and contribute to the greenhouse effect, trapping heat and leading to a rise in global temperatures. While stopping pollution today would prevent further emissions from being added to the atmosphere, it would not immediately remove excess greenhouse gases already present. However, reducing pollution can have several positive effects. So slowing down climate change, by cutting greenhouse emissions, we can reduce the rate at which the climate is changing. This can help mitigate the intensity and frequency of extreme weather events such as heat waves, droughts, and hurricanes, limiting long-term impacts. Taking action now can help limit the long-term impacts of climate change. By reducing emissions, we can work towards stabilizing the climate and avoiding more severe consequences in the future. Preserving ecosystems. Pollution not only contributes to climate change, but also harms ecosystems, biodiversity, and human health. By reducing pollution, we can protect and preserve natural habitats and promote well-being of both humans and other species. It is important to note that addressing climate change requires multifaceted approach. Alongside reducing pollution, efforts such as transitioning to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, promoting sustainable end use practices, and fostering international cooperation are all crucial for effective climate change. So I thought that was a
Interesting.
pretty decent answer, actually. I was expecting it to be a little different, but yeah, go tell me why you thought it was interesting.
Well, it's interesting because, like, it says a bunch of words without saying a huge amount of stuff. But and is slightly unrealistic. To stop polluting is interesting. Because in a sense, you can't really, you can't live without doing some pollution in some sense. So I don't know if it's about stopping the polluting, and I don't know if it's about fostering a better quality of life for organisms and the environment and humans. And I think that the answer to it is learning how to offset our impact, learning how to, that recycling is a huge part of it, right? So let's just focus on carbon emissions, right? That's a huge topic. That's a big thing about climate change. And so we're producing more carbon than we have previously by burning fossil fuels and coal and all this other stuff. We are releasing these things into the atmosphere at a much greater rate. Now, instead of stopping releasing them, we should be learning and developing technology to reuse those things, right? If the answer isn't stopping stuff, it's in a sense, it's learning how to complete the cycle, right? Utilizing the waste products or the undesirable byproducts of this stuff, and then learning how to reutilize that to help us and to help the planet and to help life thrive and survive, essentially. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting answer. I was just shocked by it, like you. I thought it was going to be a little bit more biased, but that was it was a very sort of midpoint sort of state or set of paragraphs. But it didn't say a lot. This is what I've been getting with ChatGPT is it'll say a bunch of stuff. It sounds good, but there isn't a lot of anything in there. There isn't a lot of substance. There isn't any sort of practical stuff you can really take from it. But yeah, definitely not as biased as I thought it was going to be.